Right. Now, I hope everyone is, familiar with the basic building blocks. I told you HTML is used to structure the pages, and then styles or CSS can be used to give you the color and the arrangement of the pages. But then again, we need to know very important elements where we can actually make what we call the block level elements. Right. Now we have already discussed block level elements like headers going from H1 to H6, paragraphs, the lists, tables, right? All these are, start with a new line, and always try to take the full width of the page that we have. And then we are going to look at the last tag that's called div element, which is we call block element when you want to use it. Similarly, there are some elements we can use. For example, we use bold, B, just to bold only for that particular text. So it will not add any new line, but also the width is also depend on the necessity, right? So bolding a text, italics, underline, we have discussed. And similar goes with a span, right? So those are the two things that we are going to focus. Going into the block elements, starting from the div element, this is we use as a kind of a container. So there's no required attributes like in other ones. It's a general one we can use. Now let's focus on this simple example given to you. So I have given to you simple text here using div, and then the outcome is on the other side. You can try this one. In this particular case, if you look at it, what we are trying to do, we are creating independent, right? A container which has a simple text with simple header like London. It's a small description on London. So these blocks are quite often you see in the web pages, right? For example, in the news sites, each and every news item could put as div element. And then you can notice the color. For example, in here, we have assigned background color black, and then the text color as, white. And also there are some spacing, which we will discuss in detail in the next session with CSS. This is called padding. We use something called a box model. I will explain that in coming sessions. But for the time being, there's a space here which we have defined around the text, which we call padded. So right now, if you look at the style attribute here, so the div element, we say background color is black. The color, which means the text color, we say white. And the padding is a space here. We say it's in, 20 pixels. So depending on your requirement, you might actually change. So you can see within that, we have level 2 header, we call H2 London, and then we have a paragraph. So this is the first one, an example for block element, right? Now, similar to that, now this is if you want to like make blocks. Similar to that, if you want to do the similar thing within the text, then we will use the other element, which is called span element. So this is called a container. Like it doesn't have an attribute, but you can provide like styles, for example. In this simple example, can you notice I have a level 1 header and we have my important heading. And you can see the important is given in a red color. And to, mark the word important, you can see span starts here and ends after that. So basically we are selecting this particular text and then we apply the particular style. So you can notice that we said the text color is red. Right. So you can give it a try, and then observe the outcome of this. Right. So if you want me to, show you like how this works, maybe we can create a simple HTML form, and then we can create a simple text, right? So maybe we can do that. Going back to what we have been doing for last two sessions, we have simple codes we have developed, right? Going back to the folder, and I'm going to share with you the folder details. Right. So we have page number 11, right? So maybe I can open it up. Okay, this is what we have in page number 11. Okay. Right. So this is what we have in our page number 11. Let me save the same thing as page number 12. Uh, I'm going to have blocks and form elements. This is what we are going to discuss today. Then I'll remove everything inside body. So this part is you are familiar with. Right, going back to my block elements, the very first one we discuss, we call it uh, the div elements that we said. So we can use div, and you will have slash div. And then we have a header, h2, we say London. So if I save this, going back to my folder, double click on it. So you will see, right? It simply shows you, you don't see any borders as such, but just simply show you the div. Then you can include a paragraph as well. So going back to the text, let me copy paste it so that we can save some time, and then I will share the same with you. So this paragraph one, I'm going to copy from here. Going back to this one. So we can notice we will have paragraph. So it looks like this now. Let me copy paste only the div part. You can try. Okay, this is what I have used. Right. Hope you have finished up to this point. Right. So now I'm going to put some styles. That's what we have observed earlier. So you can notice that it takes the whole width of this. So I'm going to include inside the div element, I'm going to say style attribute, which I can provide the CSS, which we will discuss. So first of all, the background color, we say background color, we say black, right? Let me say, let me refresh, just black. Then I can say text, white. That's what we have used, right? Okay, it should be the color white. Sorry. I was wondering why I have, okay, so it should be color white. Okay, you can notice now the text is in, you know, in the margin. So this looks, no, it looks bad. So we are providing some spacing around this. I told you we will discuss this under box model. So the spacing we are giving here called padding, and I'm going to say 20 pixels. So observe what will happen. So you can see now it's nice. Now, if you want to like make width, for example, you can provide some width information as well. Although this will take the whole width, maybe I can say, okay, it takes only half of it, or we can provide in pixels. So two ways we can say, okay, maybe we can say, okay, width, we can say, okay, 50%. Yep. So ideally, you can notice that it takes a half of the size of the page, right? When you increase the size, you can see. Or you can make it a fixed value like maybe 600 pixels. You can say 600 pixels. Right. Now, let's say we have a city of England. Let's say we want to, select the word England here. So we can use the tag span for, you know, to select this piece of word. And then we can apply the style. It won't, I will refresh this, nothing will change. You will see anything. But then, like I earlier, you can apply the style attribute. So let me use style attribute. So I'm going to say, okay, color is, let's say, yellow. So you can notice that in this particular case, I'm applying the color information for the selected word, in this particular case, England, put into a, yellow color. So I hope now you are clear about the use of div element as well as um, the span element. Right. Going back to the slides, let's continue. The next one that I would like to discuss is displaying various different elements, characters. So therefore, when you want to display, you have to use it with what we call the entity names. So for example, you can notice that when you need space, we know that in HTML, although you put multiple spaces, it won't display. So you have to use entity name or entity number if you want to display this information in HTML pages. right? So particularly when you want to show this, you have to use these entities, right? So let me quickly show you that one as well. So going back here. So for example, let's say if you put a lot of spaces, right? So it won't show you directly, isn't it? So for example, let's say um, I will put, right? We'll say I'm going to have a paragraph. So I put a simple paragraph after this, and you can see we have here. So let me put some spaces, right? Let me put some spaces. So if you put some spaces and if you try to save it and, refresh it, you don't see those extra spaces, right? So when you have a situation like this, if you need extra spaces, you have to use the entity elements. Right? Let's say, so here I'm putting additional two spaces. You notice that. So if you need more, maybe you have to provide, more. So sometimes when you want to align, depend on your requirement, you might have to, provide some spaces. Make a note of this. Similar to that, if you need things like list there, right? So let me save this. You can notice this, right? I have used the less than element here. Greater than. So I can use, let's say, GT. You can notice the symbols here. Copy. You can see here. So for example, we can see, I'll cut this one. Maybe we can see, okay, copyright. You might notice sometimes like this. Yes, you might have seen. So remember that some of these HTML elements, when you want to display, you have to use these entity names or entity numbers, right? So we can have, if you go by the list, we have non-breaking space, less than, greater than, ampersand, double quotation mark, single quotation mark, cent, pound, yen, euro, copyright, registered trademark. So all these you can see. This is not the exhaustive list, but these are like commonly used some HTML entities. Right. I think those are the things that I would like to, discuss before we go into, forms. Right. With that said, yes, shall we move to the next one then? We came to a very interesting part, especially in, development of applications. Forms are used to collect required information. You can notice that in this graphic, you will see that you are signing up for a mailing list. Ideally, there are some services which provide you some newsletters, and normally they will ask you your name and email address. And when you provide your name and email address, and when you click a button, in this particular case, submit button, this will submit to their website. Ideally, they have a server which store you this information. So your name and email. So there are some labels. So these two will be stored in the application. And then depend on what is submitted, this can actually give you the response. For example, in this particular example, when you register, we have to acknowledge that you are registered. So here you can see the outcome of this. It says you are now on the banned mailing list, right? So this is often like how it works, but actually you can see it's whatever the information you send is sent to the a particular server, a service, which will act on this, right? And in this particular case, give you a acknowledgement receipt. Right now, in this part, we are going to discuss how we can use HTML to create a form. How do you like structure the form? What are the elements? What are the different input types we have, and so on. And finally, we'll discuss some simple validations you can do within the HTML itself that can be done with JavaScript as well, but it's supported in HTML as well. So we are going to briefly going to discuss, these ideas. So let's start. The first one is how to create a form. So when you want to create a form, you start with the form tag and ends with the slash form. And then within that, you define what are the input types you need, right? For example, if you want to, get person's name, so this is called a text box, right? We have to use text boxes, and for use that we have to use input, and then you have to say type is a text, which indicates a text box. Here we have to provide the name for this one as well. This is very, very important. So when you send the data back to the server will recognize with this label. So whatever the text entered is labeled as first name. Whatever the name persons provide the text for this one is named as last name. So you might have noticed here name and email, which is the label that we provide here. Okay, so maybe let's create a small form, right? And then we'll discuss in the detail. Right? I'm going back to this one. Maybe I will remove everything. We'll start from the beginning, right? Okay. Let me see let's see page number 13. So it will be clear, right? More clear. I'm going to say this is page number 30. And let's say form elements. Right. Let's double click on page number 30. And right now we don't have any, right? Okay, so here is what we have. Okay, and now I'm going to create a simple form. In this particular case, first of all, you need to see what we have here. And in this particular case, we have to have like two text boxes. So the first one is a text input. It means one line input field for text input. Each input field must have a name attribute to be submitted. Right, so I'll start with that one. So in my case, going back here, so first thing is you have to create a form, and then you end with form. And then depend on your requirement, you can have things inside this. So for example, I'm going to say input. I will say type. We'll say text, right? And then name. Maybe we can say name, first name. So this will give you an idea like what we are going to include. Similarly, input type text, name, I will say last name. Right, let me save and refresh. It just two text boxes. Now you can see the problem right now we are facing. So which means that now we have to provide the label. Simply, you can say, uh, put it like this. So you can notice here, I can put first name, right? And then we can have this. So ideally what happens if you provide this piece of information? So it goes like this. Actually, you can use label here as well. I will do this. And the second one, let's say last name. So you can notice, right? It goes like this. We need a line break. So I'll put break here. Yes, you can use any other ID. There's no issue, Samidu, but since I am actually focusing on the tag elements, I use a notebook. You are free to use any ID, right? It's no restriction that, you don't have to do this manually as well, I know. Right. So we have first name and last name. If you want, you can put label as well. Right. Now, this is simple usage of this one. If you're using label, for example, we are going to, you know, make it ID as well. So I'll delay that discussion for the time being. So I hope you are clear with input and providing a simple label for this. Right. So that part is clear to you. Um, so if you need in this way, so then you have to have a break here. Maybe I can put the same. Maybe I can have two lines. So if you put in this fashion, since it's in the note, let me put in the same. So you can notice that then it goes like this, first name, last name, and so on. So this will be displayed as it is. Then you have a text box, last name, another text box, right? I hope you are clear up to this point. Okay, going back to the slides again. If you need like passwords, whatever you type will be displayed, right? So let me go back. Okay, here is what I have. So maybe I can put my name and then last name. You can notice that it's displayed. But for example, if it is a password, then you have to slightly modify how you represent it, right? So let me go back here. So in my case, if it is the password, so we say input type password. Earlier we have used text, right? So let me use that one as well. In this particular case, I'm going to use right. Two inputs again. I'm going to say username. I'm going to save some time just by copy pasting. So I will say input type text, name, username. Notice that I have not put any spacing here because I'm going to make use of this. Right. Next one. So if you want to have password, Then we are slightly going to modify. We are slightly going to modify the value here. Instead of text, we'll see password. So let me save and refresh. So now you have 4 elements. We see some path, equal, and maybe I will use username and is equal, and then I type my password. Right. I think, yeah, you are now comfortable with the text boxes as well as password with a simple form element, which I'm going to share with you. So in this one, what I'm going to explain is what will happen when you submit the form. And that has to be defined in the form tag itself. So we are using action attribute to say that what action needs to be performed. So in this particular case, I'm going to send it to the action page PHP, which is a dynamic programming language we use how to handle the data that we are sending. The second point we call target attribute, whether the results will be displayed in the same window, which is the default one, or are we going to open up in a new tab. Third one, the method we are going to use. There are two methods we can use. Either we can use get and post. One of the issue with the get is when you submit, it will display in uh, the the bar. That means it's visible in the address field. So if you want to make it secure, then you should go and post. So ideally, when you are submitting something, we recommend you use a post here, right? Anyway, like you should always use post if you are sending sensitive or personal information. And it will not display anything visually in address bar, for example. Right, going back to this one. So we said action. Okay, so I'm going to use action. And then what we have used is, I'm going to say a page. Ideally, we have to have this action.be action. This is the file responsible to work on this. So let me first save this, and then let's open up the form. Actually, we don't have a button to submit. So without that, we cannot say. Maybe we have not discussed this, but I will include this. Otherwise, form submission is a problem. I will explain that. So I will include one more here. So we'll have input type. This is button, which will add button, right? And value is what is displayed in the button. We'll say submit. Okay, so I'm going to save it, refresh it. Okay, now we have a submit button. So I will type the same. And we'll say submit, right? So you don't see anything here yet, right? Okay. Ideally, we can say, okay, there was okay, Savin, thanks for pointing out. It should be submit, is it? Okay. Yes, it should be submit. Yes, you are correct. We Okay, so now you can observe now. So when you use get, uh, we'll talk about this when we talk about the handling forms. So ideally, when you are sending using the get technique, you will notice that it's actually submitted into the action page in C drive. In this case, we use a slash, which indicates the root, goes to action page.php, and you can see the values. I'm sending uh, first name, last name, username, everything is displayed. So ideally, the method, when you're especially submitting, you should use post, right? So that's something that we need to understand. And then here we will say, right now we put just action only. So ideally, you have to say method. So I'm going to change the method to this time post. Right now, when I submit, I'm going back to my page, save. Then I'm going to say submit. Again, you can notice that this time the page is displayed, no information is visible. So this is the safest way. So make a note that always when you're submitting, use post. One more thing I want to discuss it here before we complete this. When you submit it, you see that it's updated in the same page, right? So which we can ask to open up in the new one. So I can put another attribute here. The third one, we can say target. And then I'll put blank, which indicates that this will be open up in a new tab. Okay, let me save. Let's put the same values. And then we'll click. I'm just looking at what the mistake I have done. Should be, it's okay, right? So ideally, this should goes to a new uh, tab. So we use three here, the action, that is, we open up, we specify what page we are going to access it. Second one, we use the target. The third one is the method we use, that is post. Right. And one more thing we discuss, when you use get and post, ideally you should select post, otherwise it will be display the information. Okay, let me copy paste that piece of information for you. Okay, so the error from the previous one is actually I have used backslash. So that was the error in my previous one. So you have to use forward slash, not the backslash. So that was the error. So sorry about that. So you can now observe that it has opened in a new tab environment. Right. So let me give you the complete code, the form part. Ideally, you don't need any slash, assuming that the process page in the same folder, or else what is recommended is depend on your requirement, you can have the full address. Right. This. So now that we have discussed, okay, this is what I made the mistake earlier. The input, the type should be submit for the submit button. So you can notice we have already done this in our example. So create a submit button. You use input type, it should be submit, and value should be whatever the label that you want to put it here. Right. Similarly, you can have a reset button. Ideally, when you have a form, you know that you want to clear out everything. So in case if you want to add another button, you might have already seen this in forms. There's a reset button. Simply, you will use input type reset, which will reset this. Then there are other types of input as well. So sometimes we have to provide an option where users want to select just one value. If that is the case, we call it a radio button input. User will select just one value from the number of choices. So here you can see there's a form where you have a gender, male, female, and there's option for other as well, which users are supposed to select one. So the code for this one goes as input type radio. And the name you are going to provide the gender. You can see that there are three. We have three values. For three values, we are selecting three, the same name. And different values, you can notice the values. We say male, female, and other, which will be selected. And one is already selected. It's called checked. So when you have this, we have a check button, right? Okay, going back to this one. So we will go back and we'll put it in our example. So one is we can have a reset button. So I'm going to have a reset button here. Okay. We have reset. We can observe now. You have now reset button as well. Whatever you type can be reset by clicking the reset button. So the next one is we have used some uh, radio buttons. So we can select, let's say, we have username, first name, last name. Okay, so before this, let me put some. So in this case, we say gender. And then I'm going to have like three values. Input type is a radio, sorry. And name, and then value. So this is the value assigned when you're sending. So it says mail, right? So checked, meaning it's selected, and this is what you are going to display, right? So if you want, I can run only this one, you can observe. So let me run. Okay, you can see we have just gender under that male, just one value, right? Similar to that, let's have the other one. Maybe for this one, we'll have only male and female. So we have gender, we have female. Right. If I refresh this one, you can notice I'm going to remove checked here as well, uh, because we'll have checked only for one value. Okay, so you can observe now the male is selected as a gender. So this is called radio button input. So I will share with you the last couple of lines for you. Right. Now, there are like screenshots you have shared that you don't find any file when you submit it. It's natural because we have not created the file in that name. So the action file, so some of you have shared that you will get file not found error. It is because of we are sending our data to a page which is not existing. So that's why. We will discuss this later on how we are going to do this. So just bear with me for the time being. So I think we have done up to this point. This is called radio button. Then we have checkboxes. If you want to get 0 or more choices from the user, then we can go for checkbox, right? So if you want to get like what vehicle a particular person owns, you can use checkbox. And that information you can have, right? So ideally, if you have a situation like this, if you don't have a bike or a car, they can opt to not to select any. If you have a bike, you can select bike. If you have a car, you can select car. If you have both bike and car, then user can select both. And I hope you understood the point here. So going for the implementation. So after this one, so we are going to say, okay, vehicles you own, right? So this time input type is checkbox. Remember, you have to use various different values because you will have different vehicles, right? Or you don't have. So therefore, you need to have separate values. I'm going to say vehicle one, and then value, I will say, okay, bike. And then we are going to display bike. Similarly, we can have, we have another one. Right? So here we are going to say vehicle two. I'm going to say car, and then here also I'm going to say car. So let me save. I'll put a BR here. So let me save this. Let's refresh. So vehicles you own, you can have bike and car here. So you can select bike. or you can select car, or you can select both bike and car, right? So I hope you got the point with the check boxes. So let me share with you only that part for you. Right. So let's move to the more inputs. We discussed the check boxes. Now, similar to this, there are many other inputs. So, for example, let's say you want to get person's date of birth, the type we call date, and then you can have a birth date, right? So let me see this one. So for example, I'm going to say birthday, right? I'm going to say PR. So input type is date. And we'll say name as date of birth. So that's what we have used, right? We have birthday, right? BD. So, and that's enough. Well, there are many others, but for the time being, I'm going to select this, save, and then going back. So you can say birth date. So I put a BR here. Let me refresh. Okay, here is it look like. You can click, right? And then you can select a particular date, and then that will appear in the text box. Of course, this will give you accessing any date, but you can specify, you can restrict the date. So for example, we can say what should be the minimum value. So for example, you can say, okay, the date before 1981 one, you say max value, 1979, 1231. So then you have to select a day before this. And then you can select day after this. You have min. And you can combine both min and max to select the date within a particular range. To select the date within a particular range. Okay. So let me explain that one. So maybe I will say both min and max. So birth date is there, but we can actually say what values we are going to select, right? So we can say name birthday, and we can say min. First of all, the year, I will say we are going to select after 1950 now, after January 1st, for example. And max, okay, 2025, okay, maybe August 2. I'm restricting the date, right, within this range. Now going back here, when I refresh, when you take the calendar, you can notice you can select dates from August 2025. So after that, you cannot select. Similarly, if you go back, maybe we have selected. You can see after 1950, you can't, right? So that's the minimum and maximum dates that you can, save. This is very, very important when you force or when you ask, when you have a control in what user inputs. It's very important. So validating what their input to a form is very, very important. So these are the some of the ways that you can actually do. Right. So that's about handling dates. Then if you need email, the input type called email. If you need number, we can say input a number. For example, again, we can decide what value, um, what values the user is supposed to enter. So for example, here 1 to 5, right? So we can ask user to enter value between 1 to 5. Okay. Maybe I can use this. Okay, so we'll do this and then we'll go to grouping it. Right, going back to this one. We said email. We'll put here. I'm going to say email and then input type email. Name is also email. And then the number with the range. Maybe I can say rate this page. Or maybe form. So let's say 1 to 5. So I can say number, or we can say range. Range is also there. Like let's start with the number and then we'll switch to a range. A will say rating. And then we'll say min, that is 1, max, that is 5. Okay, let me save this. So you can see we can have values going from 1 to 5. Okay, so that's about the emails and then about the numbers. Similarly, you can use range as well. Right. Now, another thing that we are going to discuss here is okay. So sorry about that. Let me put date part as well. Birth date, yes. Thank you. Right. The next one I would like to discuss is, separating out information, right? Now, sometimes we need to group elements in a form. One is visually you want to group it. Other one is it's natural to group elements in a way. So to do that, we have to use like two elements, two tags. We use field set. We use field set to group elements, and we use legend to provide a label for this. Right? So let me select some parts. For example, I had first name, last name, right? So maybe I will put it here. We'll say field set, right? And then we will have legend. We say personal information, right? And then at the very end, we can finish it off, right? Right now, we don't have any. So when you do that, and when you refresh, now you can see you will have a frame here, we'll call personal information. Similar to that, let's say username, password, we want to like put it on another frame. So maybe I'll come here. I will say field set, legend, I will say login, logging information. Let me see slash. So you can observe now. I have applied two frames, personal information, everything, but then I have separate login information using field set and the legend, right? Again, very useful when you want to organize information in a form, especially when you want to group related elements. Right, next one. Maybe I will share the whole form, maybe. Let me see whether I can share with you. Yeah, no, it's not possible to share everything. Maybe then I'll share the login information one. Hmm? So from field set to the field set in login information. Right. Okay. Hope you got the point that I want to handle here is basically providing a grouping elements using field set, right? And the legend is used to provide a label for for the for the group. Right. Okay. So sometimes when you provide, values, you can provide some initial values, right? Um, and then, so with that, you already have a value for the field. So, for example, when we request input the first name, we can provide a value. So going back to this, if I go back to my first name and let's say value, I will say Sampath, and you can observe what happens, right? The name Sampath is already there, right? Similar to that, you can provide this information in other one as well. Now, for example, let's say we can provide a value and then we can, not allow user to change. We can add read only. For example, in my case, let's say I have a username and password. So I will say the username value is right Sampath and read only. So now what happens? You will observe. So you cannot, change. Here you can change if you want, right? But this one is now you are not allowed to make any change because we made it read only. So when you are developing a form, so these are very useful information. Then you can use disabled, meaning like the field is disabled. Okay, so maybe I can use here, right? Value. So let me save. So you can notice that it's disabled. You cannot do anything at all. So here you can say the difference. It's read only. It will not show you like this in the gray like this. So in this way, sometimes it indicates that, okay, you are not allowed to, use that. Still, when you are sending the information, the last name would be the legal, right? So in that way, we can, make it to send the same information. Right. Then further additions, input attributes, you can specify the size. Ideally, the default value is 20, but you can make it, 40. Or you can decide on maximum length. Now, for example, telephone number, we can say max length is 10, right? So again, few other fields, you can use size to specify size, because right now you can observe it's fixed, right? All these, it's a fixed 20. So I can say size 40. You can see it's more lengthier than the other ones. You can adjust the size of this, right? So the max length is whatever the value, the number of characters you are going to use for the first name. So we know that if you're using a database and then if you have a fixed number of characters that you are allowed user to enter, let's say maximum is 80. So then when you get the information also, you should specify the same. So when we say max length is 10, whatever user input has to limit to these 10 characters. Again, very important idea, right? So for example, I can make it, okay. So I will say max length. I will say 80. So what it means, whatever the information you provide is limited to maximum of 80 characters. So I can keep on typing. So it goes like this. So ideally, it should limit to the length of max length, maximum allowed length for the input field. So let me check.
So what's the difference between size and max length?
Now the size is the text box length. Now if you go here, I told you the default length is 20, meaning like all these three boxes, we have not changed anything. The sizes are the same. So when I say size 40, what has happened? It has double the size. But max length means the number of characters you are allowing it, right? That means users are not allowed to enter more than 80 characters. That's what I want to specify here. So maybe I will put it other way around. Maybe I will put like, let's say 5 here. Let me see whether it's working. So I will refresh it. Okay, now you can see after 5, I cannot type anything. So maybe I will put maybe 10. Okay, now it's earlier, I don't know why it allowed me to enter. Now let me put two numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 1 I can type, but I cannot type more than that. So let me reiterate the two attributes I have used. Size is to the display length, the size of the text box. Max length means number of characters allowed to enter. For example, now let's say 4 numbers, we have X number of characters, 10 characters. So if you want to limit it to like 10 characters, you say max length is 10. Hope you are clear about the two things. Yes, size is the size of the text box. The max length is a number of characters, maximum number of characters allowed to enter. So hope you got the point.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I will share the same thing what I did. Right. Okay, going back to the slides again. There are other elements as also available. So for example, if you need to, you might have seen this element. This is called a drop-down list. So you see that you have a list like element where you will actually select one of the values, right? So you can notice here, we have used multiple different options, right? And basically you are going to select the cars. So depend on what you want to achieve, there are a few values you can actually provide. Now, for example, you can select one of these. You can pre-select. So we have, if you just type it, it looks like this. But when you select a Fiat, for example, it will select the Fiat. And then how many values should be visible, we can specify with the size. If you want to allow more than one to select, we have to put multiple, right? Now let me, share one at a time. right? So going back into the form again, right? So I'm going to include another option. Let's say we are going to select cars. So I'm going to say, okay, choose your car, right? So out of the list. So here are the list of cars I'm going to have. So I'm going to have select and I will say cars. This is enough to start with and then end with select. Okay. And then after that, we'll have multiple options. Let's say option number one, we'll have a value, Volvo, and we are going to display Volvo as an option. Right now, let me save and show you how it displays. So you can see, choose your car. We have select name cars, option value Volvo, Volvo slash option slash select. I was wondering why it is not displaying. Maybe I'll add one more and see. Ah, okay, it's there. Sorry, I missed the BR. That's where the problem comes. I didn't see that. Sorry. Yes. So you can see here we have Volvo only. So I'm going to add like multiple elements. Let me put focus. Okay. And we have then we have okay, now you can notice that I have put focus. Let me refresh. Okay, still you will see just one. And that's the first one, SAF, Fiat, and Audi. Okay, if you want to select a particular car, maybe you can say selected. So if you put a particular car selected, you will notice that this is the one you are it going to display. So that's one thing. If you want to select like show like multiple values, then you can put a size here. Maybe I will say size and I will put 3 here, which indicates that it will show you like 3 options. You can notice that it will show you Volvo, Saab, and Fiat, and you can select, you can see that Fiat is already selected, right? Now here we can select just one value. Let's say I want to select, if you want to select multiple values, right now you can't because it's just one. So you have to use the keyword multiple here. And if you select multiple, now, right, you can select multiple values. So I have select 3, or maybe I can select Volvo and Fiat. Right now, let me share with you that part. So this is called drop-down list box. Hope you have seen how the drop-down list box works. Hope you Right. Then if you want to have a text area, not just text box, but if you want to type any area that, for example, you want to get a person's comment, then we have to specify text area. Yes, Savindu. We have text area and then name for this, and we specify number of rows and column, which gives you a space where user can type. Of course, you can create buttons using button type button, and then you can work on various different things, which we will discuss later on as well. For example, in this particular button, you can try this. When you click it, it will display a message, hello world. So on click alert is actually from the JavaScript. We'll discuss those things in coming sessions. Then we can also have data list. We can have a set of values and then we can put them. For example, in this particular case, let's say we are going to select the browsers similar to the option list that we have discussed earlier. We can create, and based on the value the user select, we can get the value. So although we have not discussed, there are many others. You can create inputs for telephone, getting website, getting colors, getting range of values, even for search. Now, the next one is we can force the validation. Validation means that, let's say now, user can submit the form even without any value. But if you type required, you might have noticed that some of the forms, when you submit without any value, you can't submit it. It says required. That's first one. Second one is actually you can check for the patterns. Like, for example, let's say that you expect some text from the user. And then basically you are checking the value that is entered, right? So we use a pattern where we can have, we can use regular expressions similar to regular expressions. In this particular case, it will check that in text box, it allow only the letters. So A to Z here represent that you are allowed to enter capital or simple letters. And then you have to have at least 3 letters. So that's what it means. The last one we already discussed, the numbers you can use. So the range of numbers allowed. So in this particular case, we say 10 to 100. Now, for example, when you say specify user to enter age, you can specify minimum and maximum value. So likewise, whenever you create a form, check for the validity. Validation we are going to talk about in a separate session in coming one, especially once we talk about the JavaScript one. But you can use simple, attributes available for HTML as well. Last one, you can also have hidden ones. So the first line here is hidden from the user. When you use this, it will not display to the user, but it can be used to store quite useful values. For example, session IDs, meaning like when you work with multiple different, web pages in the same website, we can create a session to keep track of all the website user visits. So whenever you want to handle that, right, you can create a session ID, but you don't need to display this to the user. This is for the internal management. So we can create input, what we call hidden inputs like this. Last one is if you want to make user to upload some files. You might have already noticed in the forms that you are allowed to upload some files. So if you want to have something in your form as well, you have to use input type file, and then you have to provide what file type you are expecting. So this will indicate that this will support PDF as well as images. Okay, so small assignment for you to test what we have discussed so far. I want you to develop a small single page HTML web page for job application. So include whatever the information that you want to include, what is required, like name, address, and so on. And then whenever include those, make sure that you try to put or try to validate what users are entering into the form. Also use field sets to group related elements. Ideally, in a job application, you are asking different types of information, personal information, education information, and so on. So appropriately, you can group them. And also have a place to upload a file, ideally use a CV. Okay, so I'll give you about like 1 week to submit, and then I'll have a separate link in the LMS for you to make a submission. Right, with that said, we'll finish for today.